"You're ruining the party," hissed my mother as I slapped the phone out of my sister's hand, saving my humiliated daughter. The device skittered across the patio stones, cracking loudly against the leg of a wrought-iron chair, but the sound was barely audible over the raucous laughter of my family. It was supposed to be a celebration of my father's 60th birthday, a garden party that I had spent 3 weeks organizing. But as usual, the spotlight had shifted to Vanessa. My younger sister, a 26-year-old aspiring influencer whose entire personality revolved around TikTok trends and ring lights, had decided that the lull between the main course and cake was the perfect time for content. I hadn't been paying close enough attention. I was in the kitchen, frantically trying to plate the dessert, when I heard the commotion. I ran out just in time to see Vanessa cornering my 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Lily was wearing her favorite white sundress, the one with the embroidered daisies she had picked out specifically for Grandpa's big day. She looked terrified, backing up against the trellis of roses, shaking her head. "Come on, Lil, do it for the fans. It's just a prank," Vanessa yelled, holding her phone high in her left hand, while her right hand tipped a massive orange Home Depot bucket she had rigged above the trellis. "No, Auntie Nessie, please," Lily begged, her voice trembling. Before I could cross the lawn, Vanessa yanked the rope. It wasn't water. It wasn't confetti. It was a thick, viscous mixture of red paint and glitter, something Vanessa had probably seen in a viral video about Carrie pranks. It cascaded down on my daughter, instantly ruining her dress, matting her hair, and getting into her eyes. Lily screamed, a high, piercing sound of genuine distress, and dropped to her knees, clawing at her face. And then the laughter started. It wasn't just Vanessa. My father was chuckling, beer in hand. My cousins were howling. My mother was clapping her hands together, a wide grin on her face. "Oh, look at her face! That's priceless!" my mother shouted. That was the moment I snapped. I didn't think. I didn't calculate. I crossed the distance in 3 strides, ignoring the paint splashing onto my own shoes, and slapped the phone right out of Vanessa's hand just as she zoomed in on my crying child. Vanessa shrieked, looking at her shattered screen with more horror than she had shown for her niece. "You crazy witch! That's the new iPhone!" I dropped to my knees, using the hem of my shirt to wipe the red sludge from Lily's eyes. "Are you okay? Baby, look at me! Open your eyes!" "It burns, Mommy," Lily sobbed, her body shaking violently. My mother marched over, her heels clicking aggressively on the pavers. She didn't look at Lily. She didn't offer a towel. She looked straight at me, her eyes narrowing into slits of pure venom. "What is wrong with you?" she demanded, her voice dropping to that dangerous hiss. "You're ruining the party. It was just a bit of fun. Why do you always have to be so dramatic?" "Fun?" I stood up, pulling a paint-drenched Lily against my side. "She put paint in her eyes, Mom. Look at her!" "It's washable paint, you idiot!" Vanessa spat, picking up her broken phone. "I was live. Do you know how many views that would have got? You owe me $1,500 right now." I looked around the circle of faces. My father, my aunts, my cousins. I waited for one of them to step forward. I waited for someone to say, "Hey, maybe dumping a bucket of chemicals on a child isn't funny." But no one moved. They just looked annoyed that I had stopped the show. "Apologize to your sister," my father grunted, taking a sip of his beer, "and pay for the phone. You've upset everyone." I looked at my mother. "You want me to apologize?" "If you want to stay for cake, yes," she said coldly. "And if you want to be invited to Christmas this year, I'm sick of your uptight attitude. Fix this or get out." I looked down at Lily. She wasn't looking at them. She was burying her face in my stomach, trying to hide her shame. She felt small, fragile, and utterly alone. "Fine," I said, my voice shaking with a rage I could barely contain. "I'll fix it." I didn't apologize. I didn't scream. I simply guided Lily toward the side gate, my hand gripping her shoulder so tightly my knuckles turned white. "Where are you going?" Vanessa screeched behind us. "I'm not done with you. You broke my property." "We're leaving," I said, not turning around. "If you walk out that gate," my mother shouted, her voice echoing across the manicured lawn. "Don't you dare come crawling back when you need a babysitter. Don't come back when you're lonely. You are ruining this family, Sarah." The walk to the car felt like a gauntlet. I could feel their eyes on our backs. I could hear the murmurs shifting from shock to mockery. So sensitive, I heard my aunt whisper. That girl needs to toughen up, my father added loudly, ensuring I could hear him. As I buckled a sobbing, sticky Lily into her booster seat, I saw Vanessa standing on the porch. She was holding up her cracked phone, filming us again. She was narrating to her audience, spinning the narrative in real time. My psycho sister just assaulted me because she can't take a joke. Look at her running away. I slammed the car door shut, blocking out her voice, but I couldn't block out the feeling of failure. I drove to the nearest gas station, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. In the bathroom, I spent 40 minutes using wet paper towels to scrub the red paint off Lily's skin. The glitter was relentless. It stuck to her eyelashes, her ears, the pores of her nose. Every time I scrubbed, her skin got redder and more irritated. "Why do they hate me, Mommy?" Lily asked, her voice small and broken. She was looking at herself in the dirty gas station mirror, seeing a red-stained monster. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, baby," I choked out, fighting back my own tears. "You did nothing wrong. They are confused about what is funny." Grandma laughed, she whispered. Grandma thought it was funny that I was hurt. That sentence hit me harder than the sight of the paint. It wasn't just Vanessa's narcissism, it was my mother's cruelty. For years, I had excused it. I had told myself that Mom was just old school, that Dad was just gruff. I had played the role of the peacemaker, the fixer, the punching bag, just to keep Lily connected to her grandparents. I had failed to protect her. By keeping us in their orbit, I had exposed my daughter to the same toxicity that had eroded my own self-esteem for 30 years. We drove home in silence. Our apartment was small, a 2-bedroom walk-up on the other side of town. It was nothing like the sprawling suburban colonial house my parents lived in. As we walked inside, the silence of our home felt heavy. I put Lily in a warm bath to soak off the rest of the paint. While she splashed softly in the water, I sat on the toilet lid, staring at the floor. My phone buzzed incessantly in my pocket. Buzz. "Mom, Vanessa is crying. You have humiliated us all." Buzz. "Dad, transfer the money for the phone by tonight. Don't make me come over there." Buzz. Vanessa, "I'm pressing charges for property damage if you don't. Venmo me $1,500 plus $500 for emotional distress. My followers are blowing up your Facebook right now. Good luck showing your face at work." I opened Facebook. Vanessa had posted the video. Not the part where she dumped the paint, but the part where I slapped the phone. The caption read, "Attacked by my own sister at my dad's birthday. Jealousy is a disease. #toxic family, #assault." The comments were rolling in. Strangers calling me a Karen, a psycho, saying I should be in jail. My mother had liked the post. My cousins had shared it. I felt the walls closing in. They were rewriting reality. They were turning me into the villain, and they had the numbers, the volume, and the audacity to make it stick. I felt a wave of nausea. I had tried to set a boundary, and instead, I had handed them a weapon to destroy me. I was alone, outgunned, and judging by the tone of my father's text, physically threatened. I was spiraling. I had no money for a lawyer to fight a defamation suit. I had no energy to fight a social media mob. I felt small. Just like I had felt when I was Lily's age. I put Lily to bed early. She was exhausted from crying, her eyes puffy and red-rimmed. Once she was asleep, I went into the living room and poured myself a glass of cheap wine. I sat at my small, cluttered desk, intending to deactivate my social media accounts to stop the bleeding. But as I moved a stack of mail to find my laptop charger, a heavy manila envelope slid off the desk and hit the floor with a thud. It was an envelope from the bank. I stared at it for a moment, my brain foggy with stress. Then a memory flickered, sharp and cold. 5 years ago, my parents had made bad investments. My father had gambled on a business venture that collapsed, and my mother had refused to downsize her lifestyle. They were facing foreclosure. They were going to lose the big house, the status symbol they cherished more than their children. I was the only one with good credit. I was the one who had worked 2 jobs through college, the one who saved every penny. They had begged me. Crying at my kitchen table, my mother holding my hands, promising they would change, promising they would respect me if I just saved them from the humiliation of bankruptcy. So I bought the house. I took out a mortgage in my name. I used my life savings for the down payment. We signed a lease agreement, a formality, the lawyer had said, where they would pay a rent that barely covered the mortgage interest, and I would stay in my cheap apartment. They got to keep living like royalty, pretending they still owned the place while I scraped by. I picked up the envelope. I hadn't looked at the paperwork in ages because they always auto-deposited the rent when they remembered. I opened the file cabinet and dug out the lease agreement. My hands were shaking, but not from fear this time. I scanned the document. Term of lease, 5 years. Start date, June 1st, 2019. End date, June 1st, 2024. I looked at the calendar on my wall. It was July 15th, 2024. The lease had expired 6 weeks ago. My heart hammered against my ribs. The contract stated clearly that upon expiration, if no renewal was signed, the tenancy became at will, terminable by the landlord with 30 days' notice. Or, if the tenant had violated terms of conduct, like, say, using the property to conduct harassment or illegal activities, the timeline could be accelerated. I sat back, the paper trembling in my hands. They had forgotten. They were so busy playing the lords of the manor, so busy treating me like a servant they could summon and dismiss, that they forgot who actually held the deed. My phone rang. It was my mother. I stared at the screen. The old me would have let it go to voicemail. The old me would have been terrified of the screaming on the other end. But the paper in my hand felt like a shield. I answered. Hello. You listened to me. My mother's voice was ice cold. Vanessa's video has 10,000 views. She is going to ruin you, but I can make it stop. I can tell her to take it down. What do you want, Mom? You are going to record a video apology. You are going to admit you were jealous and hormonal. You are going to pay for the phone, and you are going to give Vanessa an extra 1,000 for her pain and suffering. If you do that by tomorrow morning, we won't call the police. We'll let you back into the family. It was a trap. A perfect, humiliating trap. If I made that video, they would own me forever. They would have proof of my instability. They would use it to mock me for years. And if I don't? I asked quietly. Then you're dead to us, she spat. And don't think you're seeing your inheritance. We will cut you off completely. You'll be nothing. Inheritance. The word almost made me laugh. There was no inheritance. There was only debt and the house I owned. Okay, I said. I understand your position. Good, she said, mistaking my calm for submission. Send the money tonight. Don't make us wait. She hung up. She thought she had won. She thought she had crushed me into the dirt. She didn't realize that by threatening to cut me off, she had severed the only thing protecting her, my guilt. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I spent the hours between midnight and dawn drafting documents and making plans. I didn't cry. The part of me that used to cry over them had died the moment I saw my daughter clawing paint out of her eyes, while my mother laughed. At 8 a.m., I called a realtor I knew from college, a shark of a woman named Jessica who specialized in quick cash sales to investors. I have a property, I told her. Prime suburban location. I want to sell it as is, no inspections, quick close. I don't care if I take a hit on the market value. I want it gone in 30 days. Is it tenanted? She asked. Technically no, I said. The lease expired. They are squatters holding over. At 9 a.m., I went to the bank and blocked the incoming transfer from my father's account. I wasn't accepting another penny. Accepting rent would imply a renewal of the month-to-month arrangement. At 10 a.m., I hired a process server. I wasn't going to deliver the news myself. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of a screaming match. 2 days later, the bomb dropped. I was at work when my phone exploded. Not with texts, but with call after call. Mom, Dad, Vanessa. Mom again, Dad again, Aunt Linda. I let it ring. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb and focused on my spreadsheet, feeling a strange, cold lightness in my chest. At lunch, I listened to the first voicemail. Sarah, what is this? My father's voice sounded confused, almost small. There's a man here. He gave us a paper. It says, notice to quit. It says the house is being listed for sale. You can't do this. This is my house. The second voicemail was my mother. She wasn't hissing anymore. She was screaming, a raw, panicked sound. You ungrateful brat! How dare you! We are your parents. You can't kick us out. Where are we supposed to go? You call this lawyer off right now. The third was Vanessa. "You can't sell the house. My studio is here. I have brand deals. You're literally ruining my life." I finally typed one text message. I sent it to a group chat containing all three of them. "You told me I was ruining the party. You told me I was dead to you. You told me not to come back until I paid. Well, I'm selling the house to recover my costs. You have 30 days to vacate. The locks change on August 15th. Do not contact me again, or I will file for a restraining order. All communication goes through my lawyer." Then I blocked them. All of them. The next month was a whirlwind of legal threats from them, all of which crumbled because they had no leg to stand on. They had no lease. They had no ownership. They had nothing but the arrogance I had subsidized for 5 years. Jessica sold the house to a developer who planned to gut it. The closing date was set for the day after their eviction deadline. On the final day, I drove by the house. I didn't go in. I parked down the street and watched. I saw a moving truck, too small for all their furniture. I saw my father throwing boxes into the back, looking older and frazzled. I saw Vanessa sitting on the curb, crying, holding her phone, but for once, she wasn't recording. She just looked lost. My mother was pacing the driveway, screaming at the movers, but they were ignoring her. They were leaving the kingdom I had built for them, returning to the reality they had tried so hard to escape. They would have to rent a small apartment now. Vanessa would lose her aesthetic backdrop. My parents would lose their status in the neighborhood. I felt a phantom ache in my chest, the ghost of the daughter who just wanted them to love her. But then I looked in the rearview mirror. Lily was in the back seat, reading a book. Her skin was clear. She was humming a song. She looked up and caught my eye in the mirror. "Are we going to the new house now, Mommy?" she asked. With the equity from the sale, money that was legally mine, I had put a down payment on a beautiful townhouse 3 towns over, in a school district where no one knew Vanessa or my mother. "Yeah, baby," I smiled, and this time it reached my eyes. "We're going home." I put the car in drive and pulled away. I didn't look back at the driveway. I didn't look back at the chaos I had caused. They had wanted a show. They had wanted drama. I simply gave them the grand finale they deserved.